If I don't address certain issues, please don't badger me for it. Thank you.
Jenelle's teenage son, Jace, has been removed from her care and is back with her mom, Barbara.
I just kind of want to keep my content away from the drama right now.
But what about Jenelle's 9-year-old son, Kaiser, and Ensley, the 6-year-old daughter she shares with David?
I just want privacy for me and my family right now.
The dark truth about what's really going on with Jenelle's other children is absolutely heartbreaking. By now, we all know that Jace ran away from Jenelle and David's house 3 times in the span of just 6 weeks. But what allegedly happened before he ran away the final time has everyone extremely worried about Kaiser and Ensley's safety. Jace reportedly told police that he would keep running away from Jenelle and David if he was returned to their care. Allegedly, David had physically harmed him outside of a neighbor's house the night before he ran away the last time. It's crazy to think that this terrible situation could possibly get any worse. However, multiple sources have claimed that Jenelle was present while David attacked her son, and she did nothing about it. What kind of parent stands by and just watches their spouse hurt their child? To make matters even worse, Ensley and Kaiser supposedly also witnessed the incident between David and Jace. They must have been terrified, despite the devastating fact that it most likely wasn't the first time they saw something like that. What people are suspecting the kids have been forced to deal with all along is seriously disturbing. It's no secret that David has a history of acting dangerous and unsafe and has been accused of physical harm multiple times. Because of his alleged harmful behavior, he lost custody of his 9-year-old son Caden when the boy was just a newborn. Whatever the court found David guilty of was enough to have him legally banned from being around his own son. And based on Jenelle's claims from a few years ago, his uncontrollable rage hasn't changed at all. So what about the well-being of her other kids? Unfortunately, Kaiser and Ensley are still living with Jenelle and David, but it sounds like the police have footage of David harming Jace that night thanks to the neighbor's doorbell camera. What that means for Jenelle's other kids could potentially be life-changing. Because of the severity of the situation, Child Protective Services have stepped in and is currently investigating both David and Jenelle. But it turns out that CPS hasn't exactly had the easiest time talking to Kaiser and Ensley. What's allegedly been happening is truly unbelievable. According to the US Sun, sources revealed that allegations of Kaiser and Ensley being physically harmed were brought up at a recent court hearing. But supposedly, whenever CPS had tried to speak to the kids, Jenelle had either refused or made it incredibly difficult for them to interview the children. But thankfully, it looks like that's about to change. The judge, law enforcement officers, and a CPS worker reportedly all mentioned their concerns about Kaiser and Ensley at the hearing. And what Jenelle was ordered to do at the end of the hearing was a huge step in the right direction. According to what an insider told the Ashley's Reality Roundup, Jenelle was court-ordered to bring Ensley and Kaiser back in so that CPS could question them. But this time, CPS and the court are making sure that the kids feel safe enough to tell the truth. Jenelle and David aren't allowed to be present when the kids are questioned, and the interview has to happen away from their residence. This development has made everyone hopeful that Kaiser and Ensley will finally be protected. But what happened when CPS was involved with David and Jenelle a few years ago was completely insane. In May 2019, Jenelle and David temporarily lost custody of all of their children. David had just ended the life of the family's French bulldog, Nugget, for supposedly biting Ensley. But in photos that were later released, Ensley had a barely noticeable scratch on her cheek. At the time, Kaiser's dad, Nathan Griffith, was very worried about the safety of his son. He had been noticing bruises on Kaiser, who was 5 years old at the time, for a while and had been documenting everything. But until the incident with Nugget, nobody seemed to take his allegations about David seriously. During a court hearing that May, the judge ruled that Jenelle and David's children were not safe in their care. He also told Jenelle that she had failed to protect her kids, and his ruling would be the same whether or not she stayed with David. And what happened next was absolutely unreal. When David and Jenelle lost custody temporarily, Kaiser went to live with Nathan, while Ensley stayed with Barbara, who still had custody of Jace. David's daughter from another relationship, Marissa, stayed with her mom and grandmother. But what Marissa reportedly confessed in court was unbelievably tragic. On more than one occasion, Marissa testified that she was afraid of her dad and didn't feel safe staying with him and Jenelle. She even gave horrifying examples of what David had allegedly done during his fits of anger. 2 months later, David had finished his court-ordered anger management classes. He and Jenelle had also completed the parenting courses that they were required to take. But what Jenelle also said around that time was extremely alarming. In a clip that Jenelle included in her 6-part YouTube series that documented the 2019 CPS case, she made a shocking admission to a CPS worker.
Hit something, or hit Ensley, because I'm, not paying attention to him.
But sadly, Kaiser was also suffering while under the care of Jenelle and David. When the CPS worker said that Nathan and his mom Doris had mentioned an incident regarding David and Kaiser, Jenelle made another mind-blowing confession. Kaiser had apparently revealed that David had made a bizarre physical threat to him.
No, he did tell him that one time.
But the only reason that Jenelle was being so open about what David had done to her children was because she claimed that she was leaving him. She even told the CPS worker that she was about to tell her son that he wouldn't have to be around David anymore. What she predicted Kaiser's reaction would be to the news was extremely alarming.
So he's okay, and relieved, he's allowed to talk.
Jenelle clearly knew that Kaiser and Ensley were scared to be around David, but she did nothing about it. Their safety meant nothing to her until she was at risk of losing custody of them for good. So what's actually going to happen during the current CPS investigation? investigation. Many people have been commenting online about how discouraged they are that CPS hasn't removed Kaiser and Ensley from Jenelle and David's care yet. But at least now, CPS knows that Jenelle isn't actually going to leave David, even if she claims that she will in order to protect her kids from him. Hopefully, the current CPS investigation will have a different ending than the one from a few years ago. It definitely could, especially since it sounds like the police have been putting together a serious case against David and Jenelle. What that could result in is seriously crazy. According to what law enforcement sources have told TMZ, the criminal investigation against David and Jenelle will probably be over soon. It's looking very likely that they'll be facing charges for child neglect and the physical harm that Jace allegedly suffered. It's possible that CPS is waiting until the police investigation is over before they remove Ensley and Kaiser from Jenelle and David's care. That way, they'll have concrete proof that the kids are obviously not safe living there. If Jenelle and David do end up losing custody again, Marissa will probably go back to staying with her mom and grandma. Sources have claimed that ever since she got her driver's license, she's barely ever at David and Janelle's house anyway. But it's a completely different story for Ensley and Kaiser. Allegedly, Kaiser has recently been acting out a lot in school and was even suspended for a week. He's clearly crying out for help, and hopefully he gets that sooner rather than later. If Jenelle loses custody of Kaiser, he'll most likely end up living with Nathan's mom, Doris, due to Nathan's intense criminal record. As for Ensley, she'll probably go stay with Barbara and Jace again. For now, Jace is still in CPS custody, although he's living with his grandma. But as the CPS case progresses, it's pretty likely that Barbara will once again be given custody of him. For years, people have been concerned about the well-being of Jenelle and David's children, but hopefully the court is able to give them long-term protection by removing David and Janelle's custodial rights. The ongoing investigations by law enforcement and CPS will be over soon, so it won't be long before we learn what's going on with Kaiser and Ensley. But now that we've gotten into everything that's been happening with Janelle's other children, I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts about Jenelle allegedly making it hard for CPS to interview her kids? What do you think will happen with Kaiser and Ensley if David and Jenelle end up facing criminal charges for the incident with Jace? Let me know in the comments below.